should rename this video from album review to album reaction. Just to spite the Fine Brothers for what they tried to pull the other day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that. Look at it yourselves, but that was just one of the stupidest things I've ever seen on YouTube.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
The album we're discussing today is only the second one of the year we're doing. It's a really big one.
It is.
Really big one, really long one. We got Dream Theater with their 13th album, Sam. The Astonishing. Where do we start with this one? Now, I think the first thing I can start with is... Alright.
Side
I feel like a reviewer who doesn't know too much about Dream Theater, like myself, would go into this and immediately attack the length of the album. But that's something that, as a first-time listener of this band, that I will not do. I will not criticize an album's length if it's done well. And this album is done very well.
Yeah, it doesn't really get boring, but that's to expect with Dream Theater. I mean, they've been doing that for years.
If you can make that much music for 2 hours, I believe it is, around there.
Yeah. It's almost as long as The Force Awakens, 2 hours, 10 minutes long.
I said, this is extremely well done for that amount of time.
You really just got to appreciate Joe Satriani and all this, dude, because if it wasn't for Joe Satriani, we really wouldn't have half the music that we have. John Petrucci, of course, is a student of Joe Satriani. It's like, even though these guys have been doing this forever, like, they still, the way that he's learned how to create and play music is still doesn't get boring, and he can come out and make a 2-hour record. And
30 years into their career.
Just phenomenal. Yeah, and it's you know what I mean? It's just fucking blow your face off. This record I was kind of cringing at all week, not for the fact that it's Dream Theater, but for the fact that it was 2 hours long, and I was like, am I going to be able to sit down for 2 hours?
I thought so too. I said, that's a lot of music. But
yeah.
I didn't go into it with the mindset thinking that it's extremely long. That's not something, as a reviewer, you should do.
Right, and it's that prog rock kind of thing again, where the album is a movement rather than segmented like songs. So it's like if you're not used to hearing it, you'd be like, oh man, what kind of experience is this gonna be like? How am I gonna remember what's what? Because like the song actually memorable? Is it like have a hook? Is it like catchy? You know what I mean?
I think before going into an album like this, you should maybe read about it, maybe a little bit, like briefly a little bit first, because I read that this is a concept album, and this album is trying to tell a story. If you go into that before listening to this album, it speaks to you a lot more than you would than if you did not.
Well, yeah, even the artwork, like the booklet, I'm pretty sure has like, I mean, I haven't gotten a copy yet, but I think the booklet has like an actual like story. Like the lyrics are talking about both sides of like this. There's like a war, and there's like both sides of
it's actually
what's happening.
Pretty similar to like Rush's 2112. It's about how in the future there's this great northern empire that the only music that they have is that drone noise that you hear throughout the album, and then there's this one talented musician who can play and sing in this little village somewhere around in that great northern empire, and the struggle between them. That's an influence. Dream Theater shows their influence. You can hear Satriani on it. The writing is pretty. It's Rush. That's how.
I hear a lot of Rush actually.
And it was almost like a rock. It was like a rock opera, like a musical soundtrack.
Dude, the first track is like an orchestral thing. It's just like an instrumental. Yeah, that was fucking wicked cool. Going back and looking at actual like the instruments that Dream Theater uses now, John Petrucci just had a new signature model that came out, and it's got these like strange pickups on them, and the guitar can create all different sorts of like tones and sounds, and he used every sound that guitar could make. I think John used on this record.
I think what he did was he went into like a volcano and like forged them out of like lava.
Yeah, he definitely did. But it's like carbon, and it looks like a fucking like race car, and it's like smooth, and you just want to like say nice things to it.
When I first heard it, I'm like, okay, there's nothing. I don't want to say there's nothing catchy, but there's no poppy songs on this album. Like there's no like.
No, it's just
no chorus, verse, chorus, verse songs. It's like a rock opera. It's like a musical. The more I listen to it, it gets better. And at first I was like, okay, this album isn't bad. But after 3 or 4 listens, this is honestly for me their best album since I started listening to them.
It's the way that we traditionally listen to music and music is organized that makes this would probably make this record seem almost strange to a first-time listener to any sort of prog metal. Like if somebody just went in and picked this record up and listened to like the first half hour, they'd be like, what the hell is this? Like it's awesome, but I don't get how this is formatted. Like I don't understand like this is a 2-hour-long song, or is it actually segmented into things? And that's the kind of way that you need to like reprogram yourself. These guys don't think like one hit song on the radio. They don't think like that. They think in composer form. They think in like notated, long scoring. So if you can appreciate that, you will more than likely not love this record.
This album has 34 songs on it.
It's so much,
including intros and like segues that lead into other songs. Some of the personal favorites for mine as a first-time listener of this band, I really liked The Gift of Music.
Yep.
I thought it was cool, and Brother, Can You Hear Me? But I think something personally for me is I found myself gravitating more towards the softer material on this album.
Which which disc did you like more? Which
Definitely
side
Act
did you take?
1.
Really?
I liked better. But it was songs like Act of Faith and even Losing Faith. I said, this is, even with respect to the rest of the album, I said, these softer songs are equally as good as anything that's more, upbeat or a little bit faster.
Right, but that's the flexibility that they have to be able to do something like that. And it's like one of those things that unless you're really involved in music, it's easy to overlook how difficult it can be to be able to do that.
Yeah, they do it extremely well. I said these lyrics are thought-provoking.
Right.
It's dynamic. It's got everything, and they lead these songs into one another perfectly. And I think that's such a strong point for an album of this length.
It's dense material, especially if you're like me. Is like my brain really tries to pull everything apart, and so to be able to the whole time I was listening to it for a little bit, like my brain was just like, what is this? Like, like how did he do this? Like what? You know what I mean? And it's trying to disassemble. It's so much for you to disassemble.
Usually I've been really good with disassembling their stuff, but this album I'm just kind of like 3 or 4 listens in. It's like, okay, let's breathe for a minute. Where do we start?
So record 1, I'd have to say probably X Aspect and Raven Skill are some of my favorite pieces. I just thought they were really creative on how they used the different textures and stuff like that. I can hear the piezo pickup. John Petrucci has like a weird pickup installed in his guitar that makes like these strange...
I absolutely have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, but maybe somebody will appreciate it. He's got like a piezo pickup.
Can somebody clarify this?
Yeah, he's got like a piezo pickup in his guitar that can create some really cool sounding like acoustic lines, like textures. Like it makes it have like a very specific tone to it. I don't know. Anybody that's watching this video, if they can elaborate more on the piezo pickup or like how you think that was used most effectively in this album, I would be really curious to hear it, because I just know a lot of things that he started using that I'm still trying to figure out how he incorporated it really into the record.
One quick thing I do want to point out, I think a big thing for me on top of the music was James LaBrie's vocal. He hasn't been able to sing like this in years. I don't know if you guys know that back in the mid-90s, late 90s, he
damaged his voice, right?
Yeah, he got food poisoning. He destroyed his voice. And this is the strongest his voice has been since probably Images and Words Are Awake, like 92, 94.
Yeah.
And he voices, there's several characters that he voices. Female, male, older, younger. He does it all. And I'm going to be honest with you, vocally, this album is might be the best album vocally.
Discuss that though. I really think that this is going to end up being a really iconic piece of music for quite some time, actually. I think this might be a record that people look back on and they're like, wow, that was impressive. That was really where Dream Theater was,
definitely impressed me. Did it impress you as the viewer? I don't see how it would not.
Try not to react.
Watching this video. Don't react, but share your thoughts.
Right.
Flashing gang signs there. Gonna start a race war now.
We're saying
it's like the separation of our own dystopia, because there's 2 sides.
Dude, it's not dystopia.
It is dystopia.
Dude, I wonder how many people looked at that video and said, if once he pronounced it wrong, they just pressed back.
Is this recording?
Yeah, it is.